What's going on, fam? This is Dr. Jali welcoming you back to my channel. Before we get started, let's take a pause for the cause and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date whenever I post a new video or make an announcement. I've been talking a lot about burnout, and I made a little comment in my last video about knowing that I have a certain level of privilege and that I'm only responsible for myself. I received some feedback from parents that they aren't able to hit the stop button. They are in a no days off situation in both their professional and their personal lives. So I wanted to make a special video for you, my parents and my caretakers, anybody who is responsible for someone other than themselves and find it very difficult to just shut everything down, even as it pertains to their personal lives. I decided to do some digging around, do some reading, and also add in my professional experiences and observations as a school psychologist and a clinical psychotherapist of children. And I believe that I came up with 5 tips or suggestions that will be helpful to you if you are a parent who is dealing with burnout. Now, I'm not talking about preventing burnout. I'm saying you are already there. You are at your last. You have nothing left to give. Hopefully these tips will help you re-energize and get back to a place where you can be fully present and involved in the lives of your children and your family. The first thing you need to do is speak up. If nobody knows what you're dealing with, they can't offer help. I know it's not so easy anymore to just ship the kids off to grandma's house, but there are other ways to get support with supervising your kids, keeping them entertained, and it doesn't always mean that you have to put them in front of the TV. If that's what works, hey, it works. If you want some additional quality support, please speak up. Tell people what you're going through. Let them know, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I need a break, I need to sit down, I need to stop. If you have a spouse or a partner who is there to help you and you don't feel that they are giving an equal effort, let them know you need more support. Sometimes just saying what's going on with you and being affirmed and validated helps take some of the pressure off. And honestly, if you speak to your partner or your spouse and you're hearing that they're burned out too, then that's a good opportunity for both of you to maybe take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing. But you never know what the actual situation can be if you don't speak up. Next thing I'm going to recommend is on par with what I've been doing, which is to unplug. Another side effect or symptom of burnout is that you tend to feel disconnected from your responsibilities and your family. Unplugging will help you be more present. It will help you get to know each other a little bit more as well. When I say unplug, if you are spending a good amount of time on social media, if you're watching certain programs or listening to certain programs, whether it's on the radio or podcasts or whatever, do your very best to unplug from all of those external voices. But if you're feeling lost, and that is part of what happens with burnout, you don't feel quite like yourself, it may be that your voice has gotten drowned in the voices that you're being exposed to by having so much exposure to social media and the like. If you can get your children to unplug without much stress or without adding stress to yourself, then please do that. Do your best to become more present with each other as a family. If you think it's going to be a battle, or you try and you find that it's going to be a battle, then just unplug for yourself for now. And when you gain a little bit more strength, implement some of that culture in your household that you guys are not dependent on outside resources for your entertainment. Next thing is something that I tend to recommend a lot to parents when they're dealing with homework or remote learning schedules. Do your work in intervals. When I say work, I mean household work or family work. Don't try to get everything done at the same time, all at once, all in one day. Give yourself time increments to work and then rest. So what does that look like? When you map out your day, when you schedule your day, consider what would be a reasonable amount of time to give to a certain task. It could be laundry, washing dishes, whatever it is that you do to keep your household running. And you decide how much time you want to spend on those tasks in a given day. And stick to it. Set a timer if you have to. But once the time is up, you stop that activity and you either go take a break or you do something else that is relaxing. For example, if you allot 15 minutes for dishes, and say you got 30 dishes to wash, and at the end of that 15 you only got through 17 or 18, guess what? You got 18 clean dishes. Stop what you're doing and rest. The house won't fall apart. You're not a bad mom. You're not a bad parent if all of the dishes don't get washed. You got enough for the family to eat off of. Be satisfied with that and relax. The next thing you need to learn how to do is take time to recharge a little bit each day. Many of the resources I looked into discussed the importance of starting your day with God in prayer, in devotion. If you're not a believer and that's not your bag, that's fine. But whatever you do that recharges you and re-energizes you, make sure you're taking time out of your day to engage in that activity. And this is a recommendation that I have for anybody who's dealing with recovery. You have to take time to tap into those things that fill you up. So if it's God for you, if it's reading your Bible, spending time in prayer, make sure you are taking time out of your day to make that happen. The best time, I would say, is in the morning before your day gets started, because sometimes things get crazy, unexpected things come up, and by the time you think about it or remember, you're really worn down and you're just as empty as you were when you started. Especially to parents, getting up in the morning and carving out time to spend time with God before you get your day started, before you get your family's day started, is tantamount, because when else are you going to have the time and the energy to do it? You want to take the energy that you have and invest it so that it can grow. Finally, make plans to rebuild. I talked in my last video about banking energy. Look at where your energy is going, how much of it you're spending on things that either don't matter or contribute to your burnout. If you don't have a schedule written out, place somewhere that you and the rest of the family can access it, please create a schedule. You can pace yourself. I'm gonna put some resources about block scheduling. That seems to be a very popular practice among moms or parents, especially if they have more than one child. Block scheduling seems to be the thing that's in. I really and truly believe that will make your life easier. And in that schedule, you can carve out the time for all the things that I mentioned before. You can carve out free time. You can carve out no screen time. You can carve out recharging time. And you can set yourself up for continuous recovery and prevention of a relapse. The other reason schedules work is that kids thrive on consistency and transparency. When kids know what's happening next, when they know what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be, they're not so antsy and fidgety, because when they don't know, they're being forced to make up their own rules and use their own logic to determine what's going to happen next. And that may not always mesh with what you have going on or with what you need as the parent. When they know what their expectations are, when they know the job that they need to do, they can get it done, and you don't have to be over them constantly telling them. They can just go reference it. Even if you have to remind them, all you have to say is go look at the calendar and see what you're supposed to be doing. I can tell you from professional experience that that has helped many a parent. You may have to train your children to follow a schedule, so you have to have the energy to be able to do that and put those things in place and be prepared to make it consistent. But I promise you that in the long run, it does pay off. These aren't going on the main list, but these are just some helpful hints and tips and suggestions. In general, managing your expectations and your mom or dad guilt is a big deal as well. I have so many parents telling me, oh, I think my kid is so far behind. They can't pay attention. They can't sit still. They don't want to log in. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. Please let me tell you, if nobody has told you this before, you are not by yourself, and everybody is behind. It is not just your kid. It is not just your family. The pandemic has taken everybody out of their comfort zone. It has taken everybody to a completely different element. And to expect your kids to have the same output is just unrealistic. And it's unfair to both you and to them. Taking care of yourself is tantamount, because if you're not okay, then nobody around you is going to be okay. The reason I started this recovery journey for myself is because I had a conversation with my therapist, and she said something to me that sticks with me through this whole experience. She said, you have to be okay because the world needs you to be okay. Taking care of yourself is not an option. Taking the time out to recover from burnout is not an option. You have to be okay because your world needs you to be okay. You are someone else's world. So if you're not okay, their world is not okay. And that's not okay. I know it's not okay with you because you're sitting here watching. So please, please, please do whatever you need to do to get to a place where you are okay again. The house is not going to fall apart if you don't do everything all the time. I remember when my sister and I were younger, one day we came home with our mom and she went in the kitchen and she started pulling out stuff to make dinner. But all of a sudden she stopped and she said, no. And she put all that stuff right back and she was like, y'all are on your own. There's cereal in there, there's sandwiches, eat whatever you want, don't mess up the kitchen, bye. And she was gone. And guess what? We ate whatever we wanted that night and the house didn't fall apart, our teeth didn't fall out, we weren't super traumatized, and everything went back to normal the next day. Now, I don't know if she was dealing with burnout. I don't know if something had happened. I don't know. She was so used to just doing everything, and something in her said, enough. I need to stop right now. Y'all will be okay for one night. Will they be okay if they go to bed at 9:15 instead of 9 o'clock on the dot? Then let them stay up till 9:15 if it gives you 15 extra minutes of rest and go back to 9 o'clock later. If you hate how much time they spend on TV and devices, but that's the only time they're quiet and they leave you alone, throw away that guilt, take that time and that rest to recharge, and then when you are ready, restructure their screen time. Make it something consistent so that they can find other productive things to do with their time, and that takes away both the guilt and you still get some time to do the things that you need to do. There are some things you're not going to be able to put in place until after you have recovered some from your burnout. If you're in a desperate situation, then desperate times truly call for desperate measures. You can give yourself the worst parent in the world award for 2 weeks, and I promise your kids will be just fine. If you feel like none of this is helpful to you, you're so far gone that you're beyond these tips and strategies, then it might be time to consider speaking to a professional. I hope that this was helpful to my parents, my caretakers. I know I spent more time talking to parents. If you're a caretaker, I might have to do a little bit more research and maybe I'll do another separate video for you. But particularly to my parents, I hope that this was helpful. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button before you go. And I look forward to seeing you the next time. Have a good one.